Before the desperate woman sought out the Temple of Eternal Light, the temple had already found her. It didn't find her through flyers or television sermons. It found her through whispers. Whispers that snaked through the bustling markets of Lagos, slithered down the corridors of maternity hospitals, and echoed in silent sobs in the dead of night. The whispers spoke of a powerful priestess, Oba Neka, who could grant what God had denied. And those whispers, eventually, found their way to Adara Okoro's ears. 14 years of waiting for a child had eroded her soul, turning her heart into a barren wasteland. To the hunters of despair, Adara was not just a suffering woman. She was perfect prey. So, when she and her husband, Chaik, stepped through the gleaming bronze gates of the temple, she had no idea that this journey was not her choice. Her fate had been sealed long ago. She thought she was seeking a miracle in exchange for faith. But she was mistaken. In this place, miracles were exchanged for something else, a bloody price. Because in the shadows behind the golden pulpit, the priestess Oba Neka wasn't just listening to prayers. She was listening for the heartbeats of souls that could be sacrificed. And Adara did not know that the womb she longed to fill was about to become a cradle, not for a child. It was about to become a tomb. Adara's life hadn't always been a tragedy. 14 years ago, she married Chaik, the love of her life, in a ceremony filled with laughter and blessings. They had dreamed of a home bustling with the sounds of children. But as the years passed, their home was filled only with silence. Each month, hope would flicker and die, leaving a larger void in Adara. She watched as her peers had children, and then their children grew up and went to school. And she remained alone. The pressure didn't just come from within. It came from the pitying glances of neighbors, from the casual questions of relatives at family gatherings. Adara, still no good news? Her mother-in-law, a devout woman, never spoke harsh words, but she would often sigh whenever she saw her, and that sigh was more painful than 1,000 rebukes. Chaik still loved her. He always held her hand tightly whenever someone asked about children. But at night, Adara could feel his restlessness. The burden of continuing the family line, the burden of a childless man, weighed heavily on his shoulders. And she knew, a part of that burden was because of her. The whisper of Oba Neka came to Adara through Auntie Funke, a distant relative she had always respected. Auntie Funke told the story of a friend's daughter, a woman declared permanently infertile by doctors, who, after one touch on her belly by the priestess, became pregnant with twins. "It's not medicine, Adara," Auntie Funke had said, her eyes shining. "It is power, pure power." At first, Adara dismissed it. She was tired of false hopes. But the name Oba Neka started appearing everywhere. She saw luxury cars with Temple of Eternal Light decals. She heard people gossiping about miraculous healings, about the poor suddenly becoming rich after sowing a seed of faith into the church. The temple was not just a place of worship, it was an empire, and Oba Neka was its queen. One evening, sitting alone in the living room, Adara searched for the priestess's name online. Hundreds of videos appeared. Oba Neka was a tall, imposing woman, always dressed in magnificent emerald green robes. Her face was wrinkle-free, her eyes sharp as a razor, capable of seeing into one's very soul. Her voice was deep and mesmerizing, each word a command that could not be defied. In one video, she pointed at a man in a wheelchair and shouted, "In the name of the eternal flame, rise up and walk." The man did indeed get up, trembling, and then walked amidst the cheers of thousands of followers. Adara felt a chill run down her spine. Was it fear, or was it hope? She couldn't tell anymore. "We should go there," she said to Chaik that night. Chaik hesitated. He was more of a realist. "Adara, you know I believe in God. But these places, they seem more like a show than a church. But what if it's real?" Adara pleaded, her eyes welling with tears. "Chaik, I have nothing left to lose. It's been 14 years. I'm just asking you for this one time. One last time." Looking into his wife's desperate eyes, Chike couldn't refuse. He nodded. That Sunday, they went to the Temple of Eternal Light. It was unlike any church they had ever seen. The building was as immense as a palace, built of white marble and stained glass. Inside, the main hall could hold 5,000 people. The floor shone like a mirror, and massive crystal chandeliers hung from high above. Everything was designed to overwhelm, to make one feel small before this greatness. Even in the morning's heavy rain, the crowd jostled and pushed for a seat. The air inside was thick with the smell of expensive perfume, sweat, and an almost manic fervor. The choir, with over 200 members in white and gold robes, sang hymns with powerful melodies, the driving beat of the drums making Adara's chest vibrate. People danced, screamed, and spoke in strange tongues. Adara just stood there, clutching Chaik's hand, feeling lost and scared. Then, the priestess Oba Nika appeared. She emerged from backstage, and the entire hall fell silent. She wore an emerald green gown that sparkled under the stage lights. Her sharp eyes scanned the crowd, and Adara felt as if she were looking straight at her. Oba Neka's sermon was not like a normal sermon. She didn't speak of humility or patience. She spoke of power, victory, and prosperity. "Your God does not want you to be poor," she roared. "Your God does not want you to be sick, and He certainly does not want your womb to be closed." The crowd roared in approval. After the sermon, she began to call out sicknesses. "There is someone here with liver cancer. The eternal flame is burning it out right now. There is a family on the brink of bankruptcy. A major contract will come to you next Tuesday." Each proclamation was met with shouts of, "I receive it." Adara stood still, her heart pounding. She dared not hope. And then, Oba Neka suddenly stopped. She narrowed her eyes, looking towards where Adara was standing. A hush fell over the hall. "There is a woman here," Oba Neka said, her voice dropping to a powerful whisper that echoed throughout the hall. "Your soul has cried for 14 years. You have knocked on every door, but none has opened. You think God has forgotten you." Adara froze. People around her began to turn and look at her. Cheek squeezed his wife's hand. The priestess raised a long, white-gloved finger, pointing directly at Adara. The woman in the cream-colored dress. "Yes, you. The eternal flame has heard your cry. I have been waiting for you. Come forward." Afa. Adara's world stopped spinning. Thousands of eyes were on her. Some gasped, some began to applaud. Chaik gently pushed her forward. "Go," he whispered. "God is calling you." Adara walked like someone in a dream. Her feet felt like lead. When she reached the front of the pulpit, she collapsed to her knees, her body trembling uncontrollably. She looked up at the priestess, tears streaming down her face. "Please, help me," she sobbed. "I can't bear this pain anymore." Oba Neka stepped down from the platform. She didn't walk, but seemed to glide, her robe sweeping across the pristine white floor. She knelt before Adara, at eye level. A gentle, almost pitying smile played on her lips. She placed her gloved hand on Adara's forehead. It was cold, a bone-chilling cold. "O spirit of barrenness," Oba Neka declared, closing her eyes. "Pack your bags and be gone." A wordless scream escaped Adara's throat. Her back arched, her limbs convulsed. It felt like a powerful electric current was surging through her body, tearing everything apart from the inside. The entire church held its breath. Then, everything stopped. Adara slumped to the floor, gasping for air. The priestess Oba Neka smiled. She rose, raising both hands to the sky, and declared in a voice that boomed like thunder, "She is with child." The hall erupted. People screamed. Women cried. Men applauded. Chaik fell to the ground, his hands on his head, laughing and crying at the same time. Ushers rushed forward with white cloths to cover Adara, who was still trembling on the floor. She slowly sat up, tears still flowing, looking around in a daze. Chike rushed to her, grabbing her hand. "Did you hear that?" he said through his sobs. "You're going to be a mother." Adara opened her mouth to speak, but no words came out, only tears of release. From the pulpit, the priestess Oba Nika watched it all silently, her eyes glinting strangely under the lights. Outside, the rain continued to pour, but inside this temple, it seemed the sun had broken through the clouds. For the first time in 14 years, Adara felt relief. She didn't know that this was not the end of the darkness. It was only the beginning. The next morning, Adara woke before the first cockcrows echoed from the neighboring compounds. She sat on the edge of the bed, her hands gently cradling her abdomen. Her eyes were wide, her heart still racing from the events of the previous night. Outside the window, the city of Lagos was still shrouded in the hazy mist of dawn. Chike was still fast asleep, his gentle snores the only familiar sound in a world that had suddenly become entirely new. Adara looked down at her stomach again. It was as flat as ever, but deep inside, she felt a difference. A warmth, a liveliness she had never felt before. "Oh God," she whispered. "Is it real? Am I really pregnant?" She stood up and walked to the small mirror on the wall. Her face looked more serene. There was a glow she had never seen before, a radiance from within. She smiled, a real smile, without any strain. Just then, Chike stirred awake. "You're up so early?" he asked, yawning. Adara turned, the smile still on her face. "I couldn't sleep. I keep hearing her voice. She is with child." Chike sat up. "I heard it too, Adara. I was right there. The whole church heard it." Adara sat down beside him. "Do you think it's real?" Chike didn't answer right away. He took her hand. "We'll go to the hospital this week to be sure. But even if the doctor says there's nothing yet, I still believe. I believe it has begun." Adara nodded, relief spreading through her body. "I feel something too. I really do." By the time the sun was high, the news had spread like wildfire. The woman who had been barren for 14 years was now pregnant. A miracle had happened at the Temple of Eternal Light. The story traveled from their street to the market, then to every church-related WhatsApp group. By Tuesday, the church had posted a short video of Adara's deliverance moment on their social media pages. The caption read, "From the waiting room to the miracle womb. The God of Priestess Obanika has done it again." In just 2 days, the video had over 50,000 views. People commented things like, "Oh God of Priestess Obanika, remember me. My womb must be open too." Or, "Look what the power of God can do." Some people even showed up at Adara's house unannounced. They stood by her window singing hymns. Others brought fruits, milk, and baby clothes, even though her belly hadn't started to show. Adara was overwhelmed. She cried as people prayed with her, hugged her, and took pictures with her. Each visitor said only one thing: "You are our living testimony." One evening, her younger sister, Amara, came to visit. Amara was almost 10 years younger than Adara, a nurse at Lagos General Hospital. She was smart, outspoken, and always asked questions. She had also been at the miracle service. But unlike the others, she hadn't danced or screamed. She had just watched silently. Adara hugged her sister as soon as she walked in. "Amara," she said, her face radiant. "You've been missing everything." Amara smiled faintly. "I saw it all, Sister Adara. I was sitting at the back. I saw when you fell." Adara smiled. "Did you hear what the priestess said?" "I heard," Amara said, pulling up a stool. "I also saw how everyone rushed forward as if fire was chasing them." Adara chuckled. "They want what I have. It's you, Adara. God has remembered you." Amara looked at her sister's stomach. "Have you taken a test?" Adara's smile faded slightly. "Not yet," Chike said. "We'll go at the end of the week." Amara nodded slowly. "You should, just to be sure. But Sister Adara, I wanted to ask, have you had any nightmares or unusual dreams?" Adara paused. "Dreams?" "Yes. After that service. Have you seen anything strange?" Adara looked down, her fingers tightening on the hem of her dress. "Yes. I keep seeing water. Sometimes I'm standing in the middle of a wide river. Sometimes there are snakes swimming around me. But they don't harm me. They just slither around my legs and disappear." Amara's eyes narrowed. "Do you feel scared in the dreams?" "No," Adara said. "In fact, I feel very calm." Amara said nothing for a few seconds. Then she forced a smile. "All right, you get some rest. And please don't forget to go to the hospital. I'll go with you if Chike is busy. Adara nodded. Thank you, Amara. But as Amara left that evening, her heart was heavy. The dreams of snakes and water, and the strangely calm feeling. It wasn't normal. 3 weeks passed, and Adara looked like a different woman. Her cheeks were fuller, her steps lighter. She wore bright-colored clothes and even started attending midweek services. The priestess Oba, Neka, always pointed her out during sermons. This woman is proof that my pulpit has a voice. And each time, the congregation would applaud thunderously. Some people would run to the front and sow seeds of faith just by touching Adara's feet. Ushers had to escort her out after every service to prevent the crowd from mobbing her. One day after a service, Oba Neka pulled Adara aside. "My dear daughter," she said, touching Adara's shoulder. "How are you feeling?" "I feel very well, Mama," Adara said. "I have no morning sickness at all. Only peace." Oba Neka smiled. "As it should be. The child in your womb is not an ordinary child." Adara blinked. "What do you mean, Mama?" The priestess leaned closer. "This child will carry a fire. It will be a sign to the nations. That is why you must protect it with your life." Adara nodded slowly. Oba Neka continued. "No doctor is to touch you. No ultrasound, no injections. Let the baby grow by faith." Adara hesitated. "But my sister," said. Oba Neka's face darkened slightly. "Your sister is a nurse." "Yes, but this is not medicine. This is spiritual." Adara didn't know what to say. "Mama," she whispered. "Sometimes I feel scared." Oba Neka's eyes softened. "That is normal. But do not let fear open the door to doubt. Your womb is now a portal to the supernatural. Walk like a woman carrying heaven within her." That night, Adara tossed and turned in bed. She saw the river again. Only this time, something else happened. The snake was larger, its body coiling gently around her legs. Then it hissed in her ear. But she still felt no fear. She woke up, drenched in sweat, her heart pounding. She looked down at her belly and saw it move, just a little. She placed both hands on it and whispered, "You are not an ordinary child. I will protect you." Amara knew something was wrong. Adara had stopped answering her calls for a few days. She dodged questions about going to the hospital. When Amara finally visited again, she noticed a strange object in the house. In the bedroom, beside Adara's bed, was a small, green mirror with a snake carved on the frame. Adara said it was a gift from the priestess Oba Neka. Amara frowned. "Why would a church give you this?" "It helps me pray," Adara said softly. "I look into it and talk to the baby. Mama said it's connected to the spirit world." Amara touched the mirror's frame. It was cold, ice cold. She pulled her hand back. "Sister Adara, this is not normal. Don't you see something is wrong? Why can't you go to the hospital? Why this mirror and those dreams?" "Stop it!" Adara suddenly shouted, her voice sharp. "Don't talk like that anymore." Amara was shocked. Adara stood up, her face angry. "You don't understand what I'm carrying. You didn't feel what I felt when Mama touched me. I finally have a reason to live. And you want to ruin it with your doubt." "Nobody wants to ruin anything," Amara said, taking a step back. "I love you. That's why I ask questions." "Then stop asking." Adara yelled again. Silence filled the room. Amara slowly picked up her bag. "All right, I'll go." As she reached the door, she turned back. "But if anything happens to you, I will never forgive myself." Adara didn't answer. By the end of the second month, Adara's belly was growing faster than expected. Chaik was amazed. Every night, he would sit beside her and read the Psalms aloud, holding her hand. People continued to visit. More gifts, more testimonies. Even television pastors started mentioning the woman who was touched by Priestess Oba Neka. One day, the church invited her to give a full testimony on live television. She wore a bright yellow lace dress and a matching head wrap. Her makeup was light. The smile never left her face. She sat beside the priestess while a small studio audience applauded. "How are you feeling, Sister Adara?" the host asked. I feel complete, Adara said, her voice trembling. For a long time, I felt empty. But one touch from Mama and my life changed. And what will you name the baby? The host asked. Adara looked at Oba-Neka, then smiled. Destiny, because this child is not just mine, it belongs to the world. But as the show aired live, Amara was sitting motionless in her apartment. She wasn't watching the interview. She was staring at her laptop screen, where she had paused a video from the miracle service. She had zoomed in on it, behind Priestess Oba-Neka. At the exact moment she laid hands on Adara, a shadow had flickered across the altar. It was smooth, thin, and snake-like. It was too fast for the naked eye to see, but it was there, clear as day when slowed down. Amara's mouth went dry. She stared at the shape over and over again. It didn't come from a person. It came from the woman herself. The rain came again on the night everything changed. This time, it did not come gently. It roared, bringing with it fierce lightning and strong winds that lashed against the windows of Adara's small apartment, as if the entire sky over Lagos was venting its fury. Inside, Adara was lying in bed, her hands clutching her oversized belly, her breathing heavy and ragged. She was in her 7th month of pregnancy, but her belly looked like it was full term. In recent days, her face had become pale and wan. Her back ached constantly. Her eyes were always tired, sunken, but she never complained. Every time Chaik asked how she was feeling, she would force a smile. I'm fine, she'd whisper, just a little tired. But tonight, she wasn't just tired. She was in pain. The pain began to cramp up around 11 at night. Sharp, violent kicks from inside her womb. At first, she thought it was normal. The baby had been very active for the past week. But then the pain worsened, sharp as a knife, radiating from her lower back down her thighs and then back up. She sat bolt upright, letting out a cry of pain. Chaik! He woke with a start, his eyes wide. What is it, Adara? She clutched her belly, shaking her head, sweat beading on her forehead. It hurts so much, I think it's time. Chaik was confused. Time? But it's too early. Adara moaned, doubling over. Please help me. Cheek didn't hesitate another second. He grabbed his phone, his slippers, and helped her up. We're going to the hospital right now, he said, trying not to panic. But Adara couldn't walk. Her legs were weak, trembling. She leaned heavily on him. I can't walk. I feel like something is pulling me down. Hold on, Chaik said, his voice trembling. Please don't close your eyes. Just then, Adara's phone, sitting on the bedside table, rang. The screen lit up with the words, Mama Oba-Neka. Chaik froze. Adara, delirious with pain, whispered, Answer it. Mama knows. Mama knows what to do. Chaik hesitated, but then he answered. The priestess's deep, powerful voice came through the line, eerily calm. The child is coming. Do not go to a common hospital. Its power is too great. Bring her to Bethesda Clinic, on Akareli Street. We are waiting. But she's in so much pain. Chaik yelled into the phone. It is the pain of transition, not the pain of mortals. Bring her here now. The call ended. Bethesda Clinic was a small, private medical facility, tucked away off a main road. Chaik had never heard of it, but the church had recommended it, and in his panic, he could only obey. He thought it would be safer than a public hospital. When they arrived at midnight, 2 nurses in green uniforms, not the usual blue or white, quickly came out to wheel Adara inside. She was now only crying softly, her lips dry and cracked, her eyes squeezed shut. A midwife, a short woman with an expressionless face, looked at Chaik. You wait outside. But that's my wife. Wait outside, she said curtly, then slammed the door shut. Chaik paced the hallway, running his hands through his hair, sweating despite the cold air. The hospital smelled of disinfectant and a strange, musty odor. The lights flickered. He could hear Adara faintly, sometimes a scream, sometimes a frightening silence. An hour passed. Then 2. No one came out. He heard voices, not medical exchanges, but a low, rhythmic chanting, humming, coming from behind the door. Finally, a tall man in a white lab coat came out. His face was calm, too calm. Chaik rushed to him. "Doctor, please, how is my wife?" The man looked at him for a long moment. Then he said quietly, "I'm so sorry. We lost her." Chaik froze. His ears were ringing. He blinked rapidly, unsure if he had heard correctly. "Lost who?" "Your wife, Adara." Chaik shook his head. "No, that's not possible. She was fine when we got here. She had an internal hemorrhage. It was too late. We did everything we could." Chaik staggered back. No, you're lying. Let me see her, please." The doctor placed a hand on his shoulder. "You need to be strong." And the baby didn't make it either. A double blow struck Chaik down. His wife and the child he had waited 14 years for, all gone in one night. "Where is her body?" he asked through gritted teeth. The doctor looked away. "The church," he said. "They said she belongs to their pulpit. They came with a special vehicle and took her." Chaik's eyes widened in horror. "Who gave them that right?" "I'm her husband. They showed us signed papers. Everything seemed to be in order." Chaik collapsed to the floor. "She's my wife. You didn't even call me." The doctor didn't answer. He just turned and walked away, leaving Chaik alone in the cold hallway with an indescribable pain. Amara arrived 2 hours later. She had received a call from a former colleague who happened to know what was going on at Bethesda Clinic. The moment she walked in and saw Chike's devastated face, her heart stopped. "What's wrong?" she asked, her voice trembling. He didn't answer. "Where is Sister Adara?" she asked again. This time, he slowly looked up. "She's gone." Amara felt the air being sucked out of her lungs. "Gone? What do you mean?" "She's dead." Chike's voice broke. "And the baby too." Amara sank into a nearby chair, her eyes wide, her whole body shaking. "I should have stopped her," she whispered. "I should have fought harder." Then she looked at Chaik. "Where's the body?" "Oh, they took her," he said. "Who?" "The church." Amara shot to her feet. The grief inside her quickly turned into a cold fury. "I'm going there right now." It was raining again when Amara arrived at the Temple of Eternal Light. The gates were closed, but the lights inside were on. She pounded on the gate. "Open up!" she screamed. A security guard with a flashlight came out. "Who are you?" "I want to see Priestess Obaneka. Tell her Amara Okoro, Adara's sister, is here." The man frowned. "There's no service now. Come back tomorrow." Amara shouted louder. "Where is my sister's body? You took my sister. You killed her." A few more guards came out. "Mom, please leave. We don't want any trouble." She tried to push the gate open, but they blocked her. One of them said, "Mama said no one is to disturb her tonight. Your mama should come out here and face me." Amara screamed. The guards didn't move. Finally, soaked and shivering, Amara turned and walked away. But she wasn't done. 3 days later, the church held a special Thanksgiving service. They wore white and green. The choir sang about heaven. Priestess Obaneka stood on the pulpit and announced that God had called his daughter home in glory. Not a word about the hospital, not a word about the baby, just one sentence: she was too holy for this world. Amara couldn't sleep. She kept hearing Adara's voice in her dreams, seeing the water, seeing the snake mirror. She sat up and opened her laptop. She watched the miracle video again, slowing it down, staring at every movement. Then she froze it. In one frame, just after the priestess laid her hand on Adara, a shape had moved on the wall. Not a hand, not a shadow. It was thin, long, and moved like a snake. She took a screenshot. She stared at it for 5 minutes. Then, she picked up her phone and called someone she hadn't spoken to in months. "Hello," a voice said. "It's me, Amara." "Amara, it's been a while. What's wrong?" "I need your help, Tunde," she said, her voice firm. "I think my sister was used in something very dark, and I need to find out the truth about what happened to her." 3 nights after Adara's death, Tunde called her back. "I found something," he said, his voice low and urgent. "Have you heard of the priests of the Ogun River?" "No. What is that?" Amara asked, her heart racing. "There's a group, mostly false prophets, who secretly worship spirits by the riverbank. Not ordinary spirits. They say these spirits come from the deep. Water spirits, snake spirits." Amara sat up straighter. "So what does that have to do with the church?" Priestess Oba Neka's name came up in an old report I found, from before she got famous. She spent 3 months near the Ogun River, out of the public eye. Then she came back, changed. That's when her miracles started. Amara's hand tightened on the phone. Where was she? Near the Opeji Bridge. But listen, there's more. I found someone who used to work for her, an old church cleaner. He told me something you won't believe. She leaves the church compound every night, through a back door, and goes towards the river alone. Every night? Amara's voice trembled. Yes. Around 2 a.m. Amara didn't wait. "I'm going there." Tunde panicked. "Wait. Don't go alone. You don't know what you'll find." "I can't wait." Amara said. "My sister died in that place. I need to know the truth." She ended the call, grabbed a small flashlight, put on a black hoodie, and slipped out of her house. The area around the Temple of Eternal Light was silent at night. The main gate was locked, but Amara didn't go there. She went around to the narrow path Tunde had described, near the children's hall, which led to a thicket of trees behind the property. She hid behind a hedge and waited. The clock showed 1:56 a.m., 1:59. Then at 2:04 a.m., a small door creaked open. Amara quickly ducked behind a tree. From the shadows, Priestess Oba Neka emerged. She was alone. Her green robes dragged on the ground. She didn't look left or right, just walked straight towards the path leading away from the church. Amara followed silently, her heart pounding. The path got darker as they went deeper into the trees. Then she saw it. The river. It wasn't wide, but the water was deep and dark, moving slowly. Oba Neka walked out onto the rocks by the bank. Amara hid behind a tree, barely breathing. The priestess raised her hands to the sky. Then she began to chant. It wasn't English. It wasn't Yoruba. The words were thick and slow, as if they came from another world. And then, Oba Neka took off her gloves. Amara leaned forward and let out a small gasp. Oba Neka's hands were not normal. In the moonlight, they shimmered, covered in scales. Not smooth skin, not scars. Blackish-green scales. Her fingers elongated. Her nails curved into claws. Next, she removed her robe, revealing a tight dress that concealed her transforming skin. Amara covered her mouth. Oba Neka knelt by the water's edge, dipped both hands into it, and continued to chant. Then she stood up. She walked into the river. The water didn't splash. She went deeper and deeper, until the water was up to her waist. And then, something horrifying happened. Oba Neka threw her head back. Her mouth opened wider than a normal person's. Her body began to change. From the waist down, the priestess's legs merged. Her feet disappeared. Her lower body elongated and twisted into a long tail, a giant snake's tail. She was no longer human. She was half human, half snake. Tears in her eyes, Amara staggered back. But her foot stepped on a dry twig. Crack. Oba Neka's head whipped around towards the sound. Her milky white eyes stared straight into the bushes. Amara froze in place. The creature sniffed the air, then slowly turned away and disappeared beneath the water without a sound. The river became still again. Amara ran. She didn't care about the bushes scratching her legs. She didn't stop until she reached the church fence. Only then did she collapse to the ground, gasping for breath. The next night, she went back. This time, she brought a small camera. At 2 a.m., the door opened again. This time, Oba Neka was not alone. Following her were 3 women in green robes, their faces covered with thin veils. They followed the priestess silently. But this time, they carried something long, wrapped in white cloth. Amara's hands were shaking. Was it a body? When they reached the riverbank, they placed the wrapped object near the water's edge. Obaneka began her chant again. Amara hid behind a tree and started filming. And then, just like before, Obaneka walked into the river. Her body transformed. The tail appeared. Amara zoomed in with her camera, praying it was recording everything. The three women unwrapped the cloth slightly, and that's when Amara saw it. Her sister's face, still and cold, eyes closed, lips purple. Adara, Amara's heart shattered. One of the women whispered, "O Mother of the Deep River, accept this offering. Bless your daughter. Empower your priestess." Then slowly, they pushed the body into the water. It floated for a moment, then sank. Amara bit her hand to keep from screaming. She almost dropped the camera. Obaneka threw her head back and let out a terrifying hiss into the night. Amara turned and ran again. That morning, she sat on her bed and rewatched the footage. It was shaky, but clear enough. The body, the river, the transformation, the chant. It was all there. Amara opened her personal blog and uploaded the video. She wrote a single line above it. "This is what happened to my sister. This is what your priestess is hiding." She hit publish. The video exploded like a bomb on the Nigerian internet. By dawn, it had surpassed 300,000 views. By noon, it was 1 million. People shared it with horror. Bloggers, journalists, celebrities, everyone weighed in. The hashtags #SnakePriestess and #The Truth About the Temple quickly became the #1 trend. The public's reaction was a mix of anger, disbelief, and utter fear. "This is a setup," one loyal church member wrote. "That girl used camera tricks to attack a true woman of God." But those defending voices were quickly drowned out by a wave of outrage. "I knew there was something wrong with that church," another person commented. "Someone please call the police." Amara sat in her room, staring at the screen as the numbers danced. Her phone vibrated constantly with messages, calls, and emails. Her hands still shook, her eyes were sore from lack of sleep, but she didn't stop. She was just getting started. That evening, she met Tunde at a small, discreet diner. He wore a black hoodie and sunglasses, even though it was dark. He looked at her with deep concern. "Are you okay?" he asked. Amara nodded, then shook her head. "No." He leaned forward. "You've done a very brave thing. You've made people listen." "I didn't do it to be brave," she said, her voice flat. "I did it because they killed my sister." Silence hung between them for a moment. Then, Tunde took out a brown envelope. "I found some things," he said, pushing it across the table. Amara opened it. Inside were 3 printed photos, a few hospital documents, and a handwritten letter. She looked up at him. "What is this?" Tunde spoke quietly. "These are the other women." "What other women?" "The ones who died or disappeared, just like Adara." Amara's eyes widened. The first photo showed a dark-skinned woman in a white lace dress, smiling and holding a set of baby boy clothes. Her name was Bukola Ajayi. She had come to the church 8 months earlier, testifying on stage that she had been barren for 9 years. Priestess Obaneka had touched her belly during a service. 2 months later, she said she was pregnant. She disappeared on her due date. Her husband went to the hospital to look for her, but they said she was never admitted. The baby was never found. Her photo had been quietly removed from the church's website. The second photo was of a woman with dimples and chubby cheeks. Her name was Margaret Odo. She lived in Anambra State but had traveled all the way to Lagos for a miracle appointment. Her family said she called once after the service and said, "Mama has given me something. I will soon carry my baby." After that call, no one heard from her again. Her family reported her missing. The case went cold. The third picture was the hardest to look at. A teenage girl, only 18. Her name was Ebunoluwa Umaru, or Iban. Her mother had taken her to the church after another pastor claimed she had a blocked womb that would ruin her future. Priestess Obaneka prayed for her. The next month, her belly began to swell. People said it was a spiritual pregnancy. Her mother was so proud, until Iban died in her sleep one night. No blood, no pain, just silence. The church paid for her funeral and told the family to be thankful. Amara stared at the photos. She touched the paper gently as if it could bring them back. They used them, she said softly. Just like Adara. Tunde nodded. This is a pattern. Amara clenched her fists. I won't stop until everyone knows. He leaned forward. Be careful. The church isn't just a building. It's a business, and there are powerful people behind it. I don't care, she said. They took my sister. That's a death sentence already. That night, Amara called Chike. He hadn't answered her messages or calls since the video was released. But this time, after the third ring, he picked up. His voice was low. Hello. Chike. It's me. I know. There was a pause. She spoke gently. I saw her with my own eyes. She was whole when they pushed her into the river. She didn't deserve that. His voice broke. I didn't know they were going to take her. I didn't know. It's not your fault, she said. But I let it happen, he whispered, his voice thick with guilt. No, they deceived her. They used her pain. And now, they've used others too. Others? Others. Amara's voice became firm. 3 women before Adara. Same miracle story. Same result. Gone. Chike said nothing. I need you, she continued. I need you to speak up. You were there. They can't silence both of us. He was quiet for a long time. Then he said, I'll think about it. She wanted to say more, but the line went dead. The next morning, the church released an official statement. They said the video was staged and a demonic attack on a true move of God. They claimed Priestess Obaneka was on a prayer retreat and unavailable for questions. They closed the church for renovations. But it was too late. Amara's blog post had gone viral. Local news channels were talking about it. Some church members defended Obaneka. Others packed their bags and left for good. That week, Amara received an anonymous email. No subject, no greeting, just one message. You are not safe. Leave this alone. You have said enough. She stared at the screen, her jaw tight. Then she replied, You should have left Adara alone. She never got another response. She decided to visit Bukola's family. They welcomed her with sad eyes and tired hands. Bukola's mother, Mrs. Ajayi, sat on a wooden stool outside her compound. I warned her, the woman said. I told her miracles don't come that fast, but she wanted a child so badly. They never gave you your daughter back, Amara said. The woman looked up. Do you know where she is? Amara sat down beside her. I think she was taken like my sister. The priestess serves something. Something dark. She sacrifices people to it. Mrs. Ajayi didn't flinch. Then she said, They came here once after she disappeared. 2 men from the church. They left a bag of rice and 20,000 naira. Told us not to ask any more questions. After that day, I started seeing snakes in my dreams. Amara felt a chill run down her spine. Afterward, she video called Margaret's cousin, a young man named Chidi. She was so happy, he said. She said her belly felt warm. He showed her the last text Margaret had sent. They are preparing something special for me. Mama said the baby is not of this world. Amara shook her head. They always say that. What do we do now? Chidi asked. Amara answered without hesitation. We expose all of it. Amara remembered the mirror. She went back to her sister's apartment. The place was now dusty, empty, and silent. She walked into the bedroom and found it, exactly where Adara had left it. The small, round mirror, with green carvings and a snake coiled around the edge. Amara slowly picked it up. The glass was cold. She looked into it. At first, she only saw her reflection. Then something moved behind her. She whipped around. Nothing. She looked back into the mirror. This time, she saw her sister. Just for a second. Adara's eyes were wide, but lifeless. Her mouth moved, but no sound came out. Amara screamed and dropped the mirror. It didn't break. She backed away, shaking, gasping for breath. She picked it up and smashed it on the floor again. Still no break. She kicked it. It rolled near the bed. She ran out of the room. That night, she decided she had to go inside. Not the auditorium, not the pulpit, but the places no one was allowed to see. She dressed in black and left her house with a backpack. Inside was a flashlight, her camera, her phone, and a vial of anointing oil her mother had once given her. The church was still closed for renovations, and security was lighter than usual. She went around the back, to the window of the priestess's private office that Tunde had shown her on the building plans. She pried open the lock and climbed inside. The room smelled of perfume and damp stone. On Oba, Neka's desk was an identical mirror. Amara walked past it, trying not to look directly at it. She opened a drawer. Nothing useful. She checked another one. Photos. She froze. One of the photos was Adara. Another was Bukola. And another was a woman she didn't know. Amara's hands trembled. She turned the photos over. On the back of each one, a number was written and next to it, a red dot. She kept flipping. Number 4 was a young girl. Number 5's face was torn. Number 6 was her own picture. Her heart stopped. She looked at the back. Number 6. Under observation. She stuffed the photos in her pocket and kept moving. She opened a small wooden door behind the desk. It led to a narrow hallway. She turned on her flashlight, shielding the light with her hand. The walls were damp. Then she saw it. A metal door, painted black. No handle, just a strange symbol carved on the front. A circle with a snake eating its own tail. She pushed the door. It creaked open. The air inside was much colder. She stepped in and stopped. The room was circular. The floor was tiled with black and green marble. Candles stood in every corner, unlit. In the center was a large stone table, like an altar. And all around the walls were pictures, dozens of them, faces of women. And below each picture was a name and a number. Amara walked closer. She touched one of the photos. Margaret Odo, number 3. Another one read, Ibunoluwa Umaru, number 5. Then she found Adara's. Adara Okoro, number 4. Tears welling in her eyes, she turned away and saw a large book on a table in the corner. She slowly opened it. It was filled with dates and strange writings. Then she saw a section written in clear handwriting. Ritual log, offering to the Serpent Mother. Her fingers traced down the list. Each entry had a name, a date, and a phrase. Accepted, consumed, returned, rejected. She read to the most recent entry. Adara Okoro. Accepted. Spirit is pleased. Sign of awakening visible. More is needed. Amara felt sick. They had killed her sister. For a spirit, for power. Suddenly, a sound came from the hallway. Footsteps, heavy, slow. She turned off her flashlight and hid behind the altar. The footsteps grew louder. A light flared. The door creaked open. Amara peeked from the side. It was one of the robed women. The woman entered, holding a green candle and a mirror. She placed them on the altar and began to hum. Then, the woman pulled out a small bag. From it, she took out a new picture. Amara's blood ran cold. It was a child, no older than 10. She placed the picture on the wall and wrote underneath, Number 28. In progress. Amara's body moved before she could think. She stood up. Stop. The woman froze. She slowly turned, then smiled. You shouldn't be here. I know what you're doing, Amara said. You're killing people. The woman stepped forward. You know nothing. This is about power. Real power. You worship a snake. The woman grinned. That snake has given us everything. Amara pulled out the vial of oil. Touch me and I will burn you. The woman laughed again. You think that oil can stop what is coming? Suddenly, her face contorted. Her eyes turned milky white. Her mouth stretched unnaturally. Amara didn't wait. She threw the vial. It hit the woman's robe. Smoke rose. The woman screamed. Amara ran. She bolted out of the hallway, through the priestess's office, and jumped through the window. She didn't stop until she was on the main road. She went straight to Tunde's place. He opened the door and saw her face. "What happened?" "I found it," she said, panting. "I found the altar, the book, the names." He pulled her inside. She dropped the photos on the table. Then the video clips she'd taken on her phone from inside the ritual room. Tunde's eyes widened. "This is enough," he whispered. "This will shake the whole country." "Good," Amara said, "because they're planning on taking a child next." The next morning, they released everything. The photos from the ritual room, the pages from the sacrificial ledger, and Amara's haunting testimony about her own picture being marked as the next victim. This time, there was no more skepticism. The evidence was too clear, too horrifying to ignore. The nation of Nigeria was shaken. New hashtags erupted. Number the missing women, number Church of Blood, number Stop Oba Eneko now. Protests broke out outside the church compound. People held candles and posters with the names of the missing. Some wept, some shouted in anger, some held mirrors and smashed them on the ground. Inside, the church compound remained silent. Gates locked. No one in or out. But the government had declared a full investigation. Amara, however, knew she couldn't wait. This evil needed to be confronted, not by the police, but by the very people it had wounded. That night, she stood in a small, crowded living room. Chaik stood beside her, his face no longer guilty but filled with a cold resolve. Around them were the families of the lost women. Mr. Emeka, Margaret's father, his eyes red but his fists clenched. Mrs. Ajayi, Bukola's mother, no longer crying, but with a smoldering fire in her gaze, and others, all carrying their pain and their rage. "They tried to make us afraid," Amara said, her voice echoing in the quiet room. "But fear is not our master anymore." She held up a photo of Adara. "This was my sister. She was kind and gentle. She did not deserve to be dragged into darkness." She turned to the crowd. "And neither did your loved ones. We are not just here to mourn. We are here to reclaim them, to break down the gates of that church and shine a light where they have hidden their crimes." Mr. Emeka stepped forward, holding up a bottle of anointing oil. "I have been silent for too long. If they touch one more life, it will be on our hands." Mrs. Ajayi came forward too, holding a small bell and a Bible. "I am not a prophetess," she said, "but I know when evil is near, and I know when God is angry." Amara nodded. "We move at midnight." They arrived at the Temple of Eternal Light at 11:45 p.m. The gates were locked. The building was dark. No guards, no ushers, no music. Just the heavy silence of something waiting. The group, about 30 of them, advanced silently, their candles flickering in their hands. Amara stepped forward and raised her voice. "Oba Nika, we are not afraid of you." She poured anointing oil on the ground, right before the gate. "We cover this place with the redeeming blood." The crowd chanted in unison, "The redeeming blood, the fire of God, let the light fall." Suddenly, the gates creaked. Then slowly, they swung open on their own. No one had touched them. Amara swallowed hard. "Let's go in." They entered slowly, singing as they walked. "Holy Spirit, holy fire, fire fall on me." Inside the main hall, everything looked the same. The green banners, the snake mirrors, the polished floor. But the air was different. It was heavy, damp, and cold, as if they were no longer on dry land. Amara felt it, the presence she'd felt near the river, the cold from Adara's mirror. Then the lights came on. Not electric lights. Green flames flickered all over the altar, and in the center, the priestess Obaneka was standing, smiling. "Welcome," she said, her voice echoing like thunder. "You have come to see what cannot be unseen." Mr. Emeka stepped up, holding his oil. "You took my daughter, you viper." Obaneka laughed. "I gave her a purpose." "She died in fear," he shouted. "She was reborn," Obaneka said softly. Amara moved to his side. "You can't lie anymore. The whole world knows. Your kingdom is falling." Obaneka tilted her head. You think posts and videos can stop the spiritual? You cannot slap water with a camera. She raised her hands. A low hiss echoed through the room. The crowd stepped back. From the corners of the hall, the robed women appeared. Each held a candle and a mirror. Amara raised her voice. We come with the word of God. We come with holy oil. We come with fire. The people began to chant again. Holy Spirit, holy fire, break every chain. Power must change hands. Oba Neka's eyes flashed white. You dare to challenge the mother of the deep river? She began to chant. The mirrors in the hands of the robed women began to glow. Smoke rose from the altar. The floor began to shake. A man in the crowd screamed and fell. Another clutched his chest. Amara fell to her knees. God, we need you now. Just then, Chaik stepped forward. He held nothing but a Bible in one hand and Adara's wedding photo in the other. He raised them high. O God of truth, God of justice, God of fire, arise. His voice rang out. One of the robed women screamed and fell. Another mirror cracked. The people shouted louder. Amara got up and poured oil on the floor again. This altar is broken. Oba Neka's voice rose to a shriek. She spoke in a strange language. The flames leaped higher. Then suddenly, the roof split open. Rain poured in. Real rain. A torrent of water, but no one was getting wet. Instead, the water swirled around the priestess like a wall. Amara gasped. She's summoning something. Then the water exploded upwards, forming the shape of a giant python in the air. It hissed. Its eyes burned green. It opened its mouth wide, and then there was silence. A small, soft voice began to sing from the back. It was a child, Mr. Emika's young son, singing a hymn. Jesus loves me, this I know, for the Bible tells me so. Another child joined in. Then more. Dozens of children who had come with their parents walked into the hall, holding hands. Their voices grew louder. Little ones to him belong. 1. The serpent shape flickered, then began to shake. The priestess Oba Neka whipped around. No, she screamed. This is my moment. I gave everything. The children stepped forward, still singing, still holding hands. They are weak, but he is strong. Suddenly, a beam of light shot down from above. Not lightning, not fire, just light, pure, white, and powerful. It struck the altar. It struck the mirrors. They shattered. The robed women screamed and vanished. The green flames died. The serpent hissed one last time and dissolved into water. Oba Neka collapsed. Her robes were soaked, her hands clawing at the ground. Then her snake tail appeared, long, coiling, glistening like a wet rope. She was human from the head to the torso, but a large snake from the waist down. Her voice broke. I did everything they asked. Amara walked towards her. No, you did what greed asked, what pride asked. You forgot the one who gave you life. Oba Neka looked up. Her face had suddenly aged. Her eyes had lost their light. Will he forgive me? Amara nodded slowly. If you truly repent. Oba Neka looked around, at the broken mirrors, the shattered altar, at the light. She whispered, I can't hear them anymore. They're gone, Amara said. For good. The children kept singing. The people fell to their knees. The wind died down, and a peace filled the space. When the sun rose the next morning, it shone brighter than anyone had seen it in months. The gates of the Temple of Eternal Light were now sealed with police tape, not for worship, but for investigation. The ritual room was dismantled. All the names on the wall were documented, and the photos of the victims were returned to their families. But one room was empty. The priestess Oba Neka had vanished. No one saw her leave. No camera caught her walking out. She was simply gone, like smoke into air. Some said she had returned to the river, to her serpent kingdom. Others believed she was dead, but Amara knew better. She was hiding, but it wouldn't be forever. A few weeks later, Amara stood in a small press conference, with Chike by her side. His face looked tired but peaceful. Amara stepped to the microphone. We did not do this to destroy anyone, she said. her voice clear and strong. "We did it to protect people, to speak the truth. A truth that was buried in the darkness of fake miracles and strange power." She held up Adara's photo. "This was my sister. She was kind, she was strong, and she was deceived by a system that turned her pain into profit. If you are hearing this, and you are trapped in a place where your pain is being used, please know this: God does not need tricks. He hears you, even when you only whisper." Chaik stepped forward. "I was a silent husband. I let fear stop me from asking questions. But faith is about light, and the truth will always shine." They did not ask for vengeance. They asked for remembrance. A few months later, Amara started the Adara Foundation, a non-profit to help and counsel women who were victims of spiritual abuse. She had turned her pain into a legacy, a beacon for those lost in the dark. One evening, she sat on her bed, looking out at the Lagos sky. She held the book with the names of the 33 women close to her chest. She looked at Adara's photo on her table. "I miss you," she whispered. A gentle breeze blew through the window. Somewhere in the distance, thunder rumbled in the clouds. Amara smiled. "I'm not afraid anymore." She reached for her phone and typed one last message to her blog followers. "No mirror is stronger than the truth. No altar is stronger than love. The light always wins. It always does." Then, she closed her eyes and fell into a peaceful sleep. Adara's tragic story and Amara's journey for justice have come to an end, but it leaves us with a powerful question. What can we do to protect our loved ones from those who exploit faith? Share your thoughts on this question in the comments below. Every comment is a brick in building a strong wall of awareness. If this story resonated with you, please share it to spread the message, and don't forget to leave a like. Most importantly, hit that subscribe button and the notification bell, because there are many more stories in the dark, waiting to be brought to light. Thank you for being here and for listening. See you in the next story.